The cold February air felt heavier than ever. The sky outside was a deep shade of gray, mirroring the emptiness she felt inside. Snowflakes drifted lazily to the ground, covering everything in a quiet, solemn blanket. She sat curled up by the window, phone in hand, staring at the blinking cursor on her screen. The same ritual, the same pain year after year. It had been a year since he was gone, a year of silence, pain, and longing. But every Valentine's Day, she kept this ritual alive, texting his old number, pouring out her heart, pretending he could still read her words. I miss you. I don't know how to move on. It hurts so much. If you were here, you'd probably laugh and call me dramatic. But you're not here, and that's the worst part. She hit send, her heart aching as she let out a trembling breath. It was foolish, she knew that. The number should be inactive by now. Or so she thought. A few moments later, her phone buzzed. One new message. Her breath hitched. Her fingers tightened around the phone as a surge of shock ran through her. No, it had to be a mistake. Maybe an automated response? A system error? But as she tapped the notification, her body went cold. Who is this? Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst out of her chest. Her vision blurred for a moment as she stared at the screen, trying to process what she was seeing. Was this real? Had someone actually replied from his number? A storm of emotions swirled inside her. Fear, confusion, hope. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, uncertain. Could it be him? Was that even possible? She wanted to believe it so badly, but she knew better. Rationality took over, shaking her from her foolish thoughts. She swallowed the lump in her throat and hesitantly typed a reply. Who are you? How do you have this number? The seconds that followed felt like an eternity. She watched the screen, her body frozen in place. Her phone vibrated again. I don't know what's going on. I just got this number a few months ago. But are you okay? Her heart clenched at the unexpected question. It wasn't what she had anticipated. The stranger could have ignored her, blocked her, or even mocked her. But instead, he asked if she was okay. She hesitated, her fingers shaking as she tried to type. No, I'm not okay. There, the truth, raw and exposed. She didn't know why she admitted it so openly, but maybe it was because she had been holding it in for so long. Maybe it was because for the first time in a year, someone had asked. The reply came quickly. I lost someone too. Her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected that. Maybe we can talk? Her heart ached at the offer. A stranger, someone she had never met, offering to listen. It was crazy, wasn't it? But something about it felt right. Maybe, just maybe, this was exactly what she needed. She hesitated before typing again. Who did you lose? A pause. Then, the reply came. My fiancé. Her throat tightened. That one word carried so much weight. She stared at the screen, imagining his pain. She knew it all too well. I'm sorry. That must be unbearable. It is, but it helps to talk. The night stretched on, their conversation deepening with every message. They shared memories, moments of love, the agonizing void left behind. Do you ever feel like they're still here? She asked. All the time. Sometimes I swear I hear her laugh, or feel her next to me. It's cruel how the mind plays tricks. Her fingers trembled. I still dream about him. I wake up thinking he's beside me. Then reality hits, and it's like losing him all over again. I know that feeling, like you're stuck in a loop of grief. A tear rolled down her cheek. I don't want to forget him, but I don't want to be trapped in this pain forever either. His next message came after a long pause. Maybe remembering doesn't mean being trapped. Maybe it just means carrying them with us differently. She read his words over and over again. Was it possible? Could she move forward without letting go? Maybe, she finally typed. The conversation continued into the early hours of the morning. When she finally set her phone down, her heart felt lighter. Not healed, but not as broken either. As she drifted to sleep, for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel so alone. The next morning, she woke up with her phone still clutched in her hand. The weight of last night's conversation lingered, but for the first time in a long while, it wasn't suffocating. Instead, there was a strange sense of solace, like a wound being gently stitched rather than ripped open again. She stared at the screen, rereading the last message. Maybe remembering doesn't mean being trapped. Maybe it just means carrying them with us differently. It was something she never considered before. The fear of forgetting had kept her shackled in grief. But what if she could hold on to the love without drowning in the sorrow? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should she text him again? What if he didn't want to talk anymore? What if last night was just a fleeting moment of vulnerability for them both? Before she could decide, her phone vibrated. A new message. Morning. Did you sleep okay? Her heart skipped a beat. He had reached out first. Not really, but better than usual. A pause. Then another message came through. Me too. She hesitated before typing again. I don't know why, but talking to you helped. A little. Same. I guess it's easier when someone understands. She exhaled, pressing her forehead against her knees. He was right. No matter how many friends or family members she had, none of them truly understood the hollow ache inside her the way he did. Do you ever feel guilty for laughing? She asked. It took him a moment to reply. Yeah, all the time. Like I shouldn't be happy because they're not here anymore. She swallowed hard. Exactly. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at a memory, and then I feel like I'm betraying him. You're not betraying him. If anything, I think they'd want us to be happy. Her chest tightened. It was a comforting thought, but easier said than done. Do you visit her grave? She asked after a long silence. Another pause. Then, I used to, but it got too painful. You. She clenched her jaw. No, I haven't been back since the funeral. I can't bring myself to do it. That doesn't mean you love him any less. She closed her eyes, letting his words sink in. She had spent so long feeling like a failure for not being strong enough to visit, but maybe she was just grieving in her own way. The conversation continued throughout the day. Small messages, shared thoughts, moments of silence that weren't uncomfortable. That night, as she lay in bed, her phone buzzed again. Can I ask you something? Of course. What's the one thing you wish you could say to him if he were still here? Her fingers trembled. There were so many things she wished she had said, so many regrets. But one thing stood above all. That I'm sorry. That I should have appreciated every single second instead of assuming we had time. His reply came almost instantly. Me too. A tear slipped down her cheek. What about you? She asked. This time, his response took longer. That I still love her. That I always will. She exhaled shakily. Love doesn't die. No, it just changes. And somehow in that moment, she knew they were both one step closer to healing. The days that followed blurred into one another, each message exchanged between them forming an invisible thread that connected their fractured souls. It was strange how a number she once believed to be lost forever had now become a source of comfort. Their conversations stretched from hesitant late-night confessions to casual daily check-ins. Some days they spoke about their grief. Other days, they found themselves talking about the little things, music, books, their favorite places. It was as if, through their shared sorrow, they were discovering new pieces of themselves. Yet beneath it all, there was a lingering weight, something unspoken, something unfinished. One evening, as she sat curled under a blanket, her phone buzzed with an unexpected question. Do you ever dream about him? She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the device. All the time. You? Yeah. Last night, I dreamed of her for the first time in months. A lump formed in her throat. What happened in the dream? A long pause. Then, she was standing in front of me, smiling, but she wasn't saying anything, just looking at me. And I kept trying to talk to her, but my voice wouldn't come out. Her chest ached at the thought. That sounds painful. It was, but at the same time, it felt like she was trying to tell me something. I just don't know what. She bit her lip. Maybe she's waiting for you to say something to her first. His next message came after a long pause. What if I don't know what to say? She exhaled slowly. Then maybe it's time to find out. That night, sleep didn't come easily. She tossed and turned, her mind racing with thoughts of him, of the conversations they never finished, of the words left unsaid. A sudden impulse took hold of her. She sat up, reaching for her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen before she finally typed. I think I'm ready to visit his grave. Seconds later, a reply came. Are you sure? She took a deep breath. No, but I need to try. The cemetery was quiet, blanketed in soft morning mist. She stood frozen at the entrance, gripping the bouquet of white lilies in her hands. Every part of her wanted to turn around, to run, to pretend she wasn't here. But then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. You can do this. She exhaled shakily. One step, then another. When she finally reached his gravestone, her chest tightened. His name was carved in smooth, dark granite, the dates beneath it a cruel reminder of how short life could be. She sank to her knees, placing the flowers gently at the base. Hey, she whispered. It's been a while. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. She closed her eyes, letting the memories flood in. The way he laughed, the way he held her when she cried, the way he always knew how to make things better. I miss you, she choked out. But I think I'm starting to understand that missing you doesn't mean I have to stop living. A tear slipped down her cheek. I just wanted you to know that. And I hope, wherever you are, you're okay. The weight on her chest didn't disappear, but for the first time, it felt a little lighter. She pulled out her phone and sent one final message. I did it. His response was immediate. I'm proud of you. A small smile touched her lips. Maybe, just maybe, she was finally learning how to carry love without letting it break her. The following days felt different. Not lighter. Grief was never that simple. But clearer, as if a fog she had been wandering through had finally started to lift. Visiting his grave had been the hardest thing she had done since losing him, but it also made her realize something. She was still here. She was still breathing, still feeling, still existing, and maybe, just maybe, she was meant to do more than just exist. Her phone buzzed again. How are you feeling today? She hesitated, then typed. Like I can breathe again. That's a good sign. She smiled faintly. What about you? Have you thought about visiting her grave? A long pause followed. She almost regretted asking, worried she had pushed too far. But then, the response came. Yeah, I think I'm ready too. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Do you want me to come with you? She wasn't sure why she offered. Maybe because she understood the weight of it, the unbearable ache of facing something you had been running from. Maybe because, in a strange way, they had become each other's lifeline. Another pause. Then, I think, I'd like that. Her heart swelled. The cemetery was quiet when they arrived. The air was crisp, the scent of damp grass and earth lingering from the previous night's rain. She walked beside him, neither of them speaking. There was no need to. Grief had a way of filling the silence. When he finally stopped in front of the headstone, she saw his hands clench into fists. His jaw tightened. His breathing grew uneven. She reached out, fingers gently brushing against his wrist. A silent reminder that he wasn't alone. Slowly, he knelt, his shoulders trembling. Hey, he murmured. It's been a while. His voice cracked on the last word, and she felt her chest tighten. He pulled a small letter from his pocket, unfolding it with shaky hands. I wrote this a long time ago, but I never got the chance to give it to you, he whispered. His fingers skimmed over the words as he read in a trembling voice. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to tell you how much you meant to me. And I hate that. But I hope you know that even though you're not here, you'll always be with me. In the way I remember your laughter, in the songs we used to sing in the car, in every little thing that reminds me of you. I love you. I always will. Tears slipped down his face as he carefully placed the letter at the base of the headstone. She swallowed back her own tears, her heart aching for him. As they sat there, surrounded by the whispers of the wind, she finally spoke. You did it. He let out a shaky breath, nodding. Yeah, I did. They stayed a little longer, letting the weight of the moment settle before quietly making their way back. That night, as she lay in bed, staring at her phone, a thought occurred to her. She had started this journey by texting a number she thought was lost forever. And somehow, in the most unexpected way, that number had brought her healing. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard one last time. Love never dies. It just transforms. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. A response came moments later. Thank you for reminding me that even in loss, we can find something beautiful. Her eyes welled with tears, but this time, they weren't just from sadness. They were from something softer, something closer to peace. As she set her phone down, she whispered into the quiet, "Goodbye, but not really, because I'll carry you with me. Always." And for the first time in a long time, she knew she was going to be okay. Thank you so much for watching. We hope this story touched your heart and reminded you that even in the darkest times, love has a way of finding us in unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you more heartwarming and meaningful stories. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments what kind of stories you'd love to see next. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. And always remember, love never truly dies. It lives on in our memories, in the people we touch, and in the ways we choose to carry it forward. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep believing in the magic of connection. See you in the next story.